Activa tu voz. Activate now.
Speak up, speak out. Get involved, get involved. Engage-toi.
Take action.
Aktiviere deine Stimme.
We're union.
Welcome to Activate Live. I'm Tanya Hutchins, coming to you from the Machinists Union headquarters in Upper Marlboro, Maryland. We're celebrating a special anniversary this week, and we're learning more about labor communication strategy. But first, a few news items for you. The Machinists Union is urging Congress to pass the Rehabilitation for Multi-Employer Pensions Act of 2019. The bill is H.R. 397, better known as the Butch-Lewis Act. Now, Lewis was a Vietnam War veteran who returned home and worked for 40 years as a union trucker, but passed away due to a stroke on New Year's Eve in 2015. And there you see Sherrod Brown with Butch Lewis's wife holding a picture of her and Butch Lewis. Now, that stroke happened in New Year's Eve 2015. Doctors attributed his stroke in part to the stress he faced fighting proposed pension cuts. The Butch-Lewis Act would establish a pension rehabilitation administration within the Treasury Department and a related trust fund to make loans to pension plans in critical or declining status. The House expects to vote on the act later today if it hasn't already. Well, sad news from the Worker Institute at Cornell University School of Industrial and Labor Relations. Union Communication Services is shutting down at the end of August. UCS runs the website unionist.com, which you see here. It publishes Steward Update and 24 books. Now, David Proston created UCS in 1981 and gifted it to Cornell in 2015. The university made lots of updates to the website throughout the past 5 years. The school says it's confident other labor organizations will step in to provide the crucial information for workers and shop floor activists that Steward Update provided. This is often where we get our labor history information for Activate Live. Union Communications Services will truly be missed. Well, getting out messages about workers' rights isn't always easy. Every union has its challenges, and sometimes even communicators are accused of not communicating effectively. But there is a way to approach the challenge of telling our stories well. So joining us now is Hanley from Defiance Strategies with some insight. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Now, I met you in Philadelphia a few weeks ago, and we wanted to get you in here for an interview. You work with a lot of labor organizations and nonprofits. Why is labor communications so important?
I mean, it's so important right now because we are decades into a period of a lot of anti-union activism, which has now gone digital. I mean, right now in the age of social media, the internet, unions are not really doing enough to get their side of the story out, the worker side of the story out. Meanwhile, you've got people who are fighting against unions in all different states, in all different areas, using the internet to harm unions and to really weaken them. And so one thing I've said to folks is go on Google and Google your local and see what comes up first. And in a lot of cases, you will see anti-union groups who will pay to have their search results appear ahead of the actual local you're searching for, trying to get people to get out of their union, especially post-Janus, trying to convert union members essentially into freeloaders using the internet.
Now, remind people what Janus did, because not all of our viewers are familiar with the Janus decision.
Right, and so, you know, though I did study law, I don't practice law, but the Janus decision, it affects public sector unions in particular, and it allows people to get out of their union. It does not, it basically makes states across the country effectively right-to-work states, right, where people do not need to stay in their union even if they're in an otherwise unionized workplace. They're allowed to get out of their union. But of course, they're still deriving benefit from the union. They're still getting the benefit of collective bargaining and all of that, but they're not paying into the union.
So that's why a lot of people who are against right-to-work, like us, call them freeloaders, because they're getting the benefits.
Well, that's exactly it. So, I mean, the other side's argument, and this is where it comes down to sort of storytelling and the importance of communication, the other side has been pushing this narrative even before the internet, but especially now, you know, with the help of the internet, that unions force people to, you know, join, they force them to pay dues, they force. It's all this kind of very anti-individualist sort of rhetoric, but the other side of the story really is, okay, but if you're not helping. If you're not joining the union, what are you doing? Well, you're deriving benefits without helping, without paying into it, and so you are essentially a freeloader. But the problem is, the freeloader side of the story is not being told as frequently and as effectively as the other side is pushing the anti-union sort of message.
So we have to push that more, tell that story more.
Definitely, definitely.
What is new out there? I mean, labor communications has been around for a while, and sometimes we get stuck in a rut of doing the same things the same way all of the time. What's new?
Well, as you can see, being here, the technology is what's new, right? And now it's, you know, the technology is more democratized than ever, right? So whereas years ago, to have a TV show, you'd need to be at a local station or even better on a network, now you can set up your own show and have it go on YouTube, on Facebook, and other social media channels. So that's really what's new. But what I'm seeing is that labor is not using it as effectively as a lot of other sectors, right? Not making use of all these technologies that are, if not free, at the very most low cost. In fact, the lowest costs we could possibly imagine. So really making use of social media, making use of digital technologies so that that message gets out there. But of course, the technology is new, but the message needs to be sort of reinforced, right? So even with multiple free channels, your different social media, YouTube, all of that, what it still comes down to is developing your narrative, your story, and pushing that message out and doing so repeatedly in a way that can be memorable and relatable to members of the public. That's really what's key.
Now, what if there's a new communicator out there who just became a communicator of a local? Do you have any tips for them just starting out, like where to begin?
Yeah. So, of course, if you're working for a local, kind of get a message developed. What does the local do? What's the mission, right? What does the local do for its members, for its community, for the area in which it functions, right? Get on message and figure out sort of why people should take interest in the local, right? That's kind of the first step. The next is reinforcing that message with storytelling. So don't just have a slogan, don't just have graphics, but also tie into that personal stories from members, from people in the community that are relatable, that can be used to reinforce that message. And then finally, it's the consistency, right? It's making sure that the local is speaking across platforms with a unified voice, so that whether it's in-person communications, print media, or digital media, it's consistent across all platforms, so that whether it's prospective members or members of the public even, people are getting the same impression, the same idea of that local across platforms.
Now, some of us have different audiences.
Right.
How do you reach people who are in different audiences? Sometimes we have different types of workers within our own union.
Yeah, so it's really important to figure out how the issue that you need to communicate about affects the lives of the real people you're trying to talk to, right? So you're not just talking to a number of Instagram followers, you're not just talking to a random audience on a Facebook ad, you're talking to actual people. So really what it boils down to is what actually matters for those people, because they are people, they're individuals, and don't also get caught up in sort of what your goals are, what you're trying to push out. Figure out what your goals are, what message you want to put out there, whether it's legislation you're talking about, like in the last segment, or an organizing effort. That's fine, but first think about how will that affect the lives of the people I'm talking to. Start at that point and work your way back to, okay, here's how we get you what you need in your life. Here is how we accomplish this goal so that you get what you need. And I think you'll find that though a lot of people are divided by ideology or partisanship or other things that, are somewhat superficial, honestly, when it comes down to what they need, what affects their lives as human beings, as workers, as family members, there's a lot more that unites than divides.
Okay, so it sounds like this is teachable. There's a lot to keep in mind, but don't give up.
No, definitely not. And what's important too is to get a sense of what other folks are doing. I'm not saying, to copy anyone in particular, but there are certainly people out there who are doing a great job, different locals, different councils that can be looked to. Check out their social media presence, check out their Facebook page, their websites, sort of see what they're doing. Take a look at how they're consistent with their message. Take a look at how they're consistent with their branding. and also see how much effort they put into putting the message out there, because that's important too, making sure it's reinforced and constantly being projected into the public space.
Is there anything else you'd like to mention that I haven't thought of?
Oh, geez, in
There's so
a
much.
little bit of time, yeah. Without going too much into the weeds, you know, I think what's important to take away is that it's critical right now to make the most of all of these free platforms. Your social media, video, all of these things, these are tools that just a couple of decades ago, even 1 or 2 decades ago, would have been unimaginably expensive. And now they can be used to really get a message out there in a cost-effective way. So make some mistakes, play with them, you know, figure out what works and what doesn't. But above all, when you're using all these different platforms and you're playing around and trying to see, you know, what works and what doesn't, just make sure once you find out what works for you and for the audience you're trying to reach, make sure you stay consistent. Consistency really is key.
I know some of our districts and some of our territories are using text messaging a lot now with text alerts.
Yeah.
And that's really caught on, and some
Definitely.
are using WhatsApp.
Yeah.
It seems like there's so much out there to choose from.
Yeah, definitely. And when it comes to the texting technology, it's really gotten a lot more sophisticated now. Now you can have automated mass texting, kind of like you'd have an email blast from MailChimp or from one of those sort of providers. There are those sort of things now for texting. There's also peer-to-peer texting, where you can have volunteers kind of get an effort together in a war room or even from the comfort of their own couch and just have a list of people they need to reach out to. Those are techniques that are good for sort of urgent, in-the-moment things, like, right, we've got this thing coming up, we have to call these people to, you know, whatever it is. It's very kind of short-term. But in terms of the longer-term planning, it's really about getting back to basics and figuring out what's your message, what do you stand for, and why should the people who you're communicating with, why should they care about you and the work that you're doing? Because that's what's going to keep them engaged and involved. So when those texts do go out, those asks are made, they're already engaged and willing to say yes.
How did you get into this type of work, especially with the nonprofits?
So I was always concerned that in the public space in our country, whether you're talking about politics or economics or in particular labor, that a lot of the times good people, the people who are leading the fight for what's right, they don't always have the best tools at their disposal. And now that we have all this amazing technology that kind of levels the playing field, now's really the time to kind of build people up and educate them and say, hey, we've got these tools here, let's make the most of them, because the people who are fighting against unions, against working families, they've been at this since before we had this kind of democratizing technology, and they're going to keep up the fight now that we have Google and YouTube and Facebook and all of that. So it was really kind of by accident. I entered this first by, you know, going to law school and kind of figuring, okay, how do I use that sort of strategic thinking? How do I use that very kind of language-based thinking to empower other people to lift themselves up and help themselves out? And what I realized was, for me, it's the strategy, it's the language, it's the communication. So I opened up my own communications firm to help, whether it's candidates or labor unions or nonprofits, people who are doing the good fight, show them the tools they need so they can actually succeed in their mission.
Language matters.
It does. Absolutely.
How can people get in touch with you?
So they can go to defiancestrategies.com. It's Defiance, A-N-C-E, not A-N-T.
Okay.
They can call me directly, 410-371-7274, or they can email me. It's Christian@defiancestrategies.com.
All right. Thanks so much for stopping by.
Thank
we
you for having
appreciate
me.
it.
It was great. Thank you.
Okay. Well, join the conversation. So what do you think? Comment about union communication strategy. Is your local district trying anything new? Let us know by commenting on this video. You can also use live chat on YouTube, comments on Facebook, or replying to this video on Twitter. You can even comment during the replay. Well, we love to give organizing tips, and now we're giving you a chance to activate your voices. Do you have an organizing tip that you'd like to share? You can send me an email at thimaw.imaw.org. Some people say thuchins@imaw.org. And we could use it on a future show. And if we do use your tip, we'll send you one of these cool insulated travel mugs. So get those tips in as soon as you can, or just comment here. You can do that as well. Well, a big anniversary is coming up this Sunday. 71 years ago this week, Guide Dogs of America was founded by a machinist with the help of the Machinists Union. Joining us now to look back and forward is GDA Outreach Coordinator Zack Gittlen. Hi, Zack.
Hi, how are you, Tanya?
Good. Thanks for joining us. Tell us a little bit about the founder of Guide Dogs of America.
So the founder's name was Joseph Jones, and he was in fact a machinist. And he got tropical fever when he was a boy at age 8. And it was due to that he lost his vision. And so at 8 years old, he went blind, and slowly he regained it enough that he was able to enter the workforce as a machinist in Missouri. So his vision was always kind of fragile, and he lost it again when he turned 37. So at 37, he quit his job as a machinist working on the railroad and moved to New York City, where he opened up a library, oddly enough. And when he was in his 50s, that was about when the guide dog movement was really taking off. And he went to go receive a guide dog for himself from the organizations that were around at the time. And what he found was that there were very few, and a lot of the ones that were in existence were actually shams. They were just charging fees and money and not actually providing services. And the one that he found to be reputable and not actually a sham declined him, citing that advanced age. So at 57, they basically said, "You're too old. We'll give you a guide dog."
I can't believe that. He was 57?
57 years old, yeah. The young age of 57.
57 years young. I just can't believe that. So a lot has changed since then, Zack. You have a lot going on. Guide Dogs of America has grown so much. It's an International Guiding Eyes program. Tell us a little bit about what's going on today, because your campus has really changed.
Yeah, our campus has changed, especially over the past year and a half. So one of the things that we found was that a lot, the guide dog community is very competitive, and a lot of different schools have these beautiful campuses to attract students. And the campus that we had needed a lot of work. So what we did was we completely renovated our student dormitories as well as our administration offices. The student dorms are beautiful. If you go through them, we outfitted them with all the latest and greatest. We were able to actually expand upon the space that we had, increasing the number of rooms from 10 to 14. Each room, I like to say that, if I yell down the hallway and yell Alexa, I get like 20 responses, and every light turns on, and everything's outfitted with accessible technologies to make the student experience the best that it can be.
And you also have some new initiatives that are happening, actually a couple of them.
Do.
Tell us about that, because it's very exciting.
So one of the things that we're working on right now is actually joining on with another not guide dog program, service dog program. And what they do is they create dogs for veterans with PTSD as well as kids with autism. And then they have another program that does facility dogs for courthouses, hospitals, you name it. So what that will allow us to do, right now we career change a lot of dogs that don't make the guide dog program. And the guide dog program is like being a Navy SEAL in terms of service dog work. It's really stressful on the dog, and the dogs that do make the program are really the best of the best. The dogs that don't make the program are still really highly qualified dogs and really expensive dogs. And
what happens to them?
Right now, they currently are adopted out. There's a couple of them will go into other programs like we just talked about, PTSD and veterans, but it's really small because we don't have our own. So they usually just get adopted out to a home in Southern California. What this program will allow us to do is dogs that don't make the guide dog program, they could potentially be a fit to go into the PTSD program or the autism program.
I think the fact that a guide dog can change a person's life and make the person so independent is amazing in itself. But then to think about a service dog being able to help somebody with PTSD or autism is amazing. Can you tell us a little bit just about the potential there?
Yeah, there's just such a need. This year was actually the first year that the need for service dogs outweighed the need for guide dogs. It's like right around 50 and 51%. And the things that the PTSD dogs can do are really life-changing, especially for some of the veterans that are more affected. So, like, I know one example of a dog that was from our program that went into the PTSD program already. And what the dog does is when the veteran gets home, the dog will walk into the house first, check every room in the house, and assure their handler that the house is safe. The dog will also check underneath the car before he steps in the car. The dog, when the veteran's in a public situation, watching their six, so the dog stands between their legs looking backwards. And that comforts the veteran knowing that no one's going to spook up on him and trigger something that could be emotional for them.
That is amazing. There are just so many things that dogs can do and we can teach them to do. And just the companionship itself must mean so much.
Yeah, it's awesome to see.
I know that you have a puppy cam there, and we've seen it before. We're actually looking at the puppy cam now. This has really turned into a hit, hasn't it?
Yeah, so there's one on our website, and then there's one, as the one that you're seeing is on explore.org. And that one is national. It's run by the Annenberg Foundation. So that one has 2 cameras.
Oh, that is amazing. Well, we have so many locals and districts that raise funds year-round for Guide Dogs of America. I'm just going to give you an open mic right now to do a promo. What do you want people to know, especially about your biggest fundraiser that's coming up this November?
Yeah, so as you mentioned, people fundraise for us all year long, and we always celebrate that by holding our banquet at the end of the year in Las Vegas. So the past couple of years we've done themes. We did a cruise theme, we did the NFL. This year we're doing Wolfstock. So it's a whole week. It's 3 days of peace, love, and pups.
Oh, that's cute. Wolfstock.
Yeah, Wolfstock.
Like Woodstock,
so this year,
Wolfstock.
Yes, exactly. This year it's being held in Bally's from November. It's the thing there says November 23rd. That's the night of the actual banquet, but it starts on the 21st. There's a sporting clay event, a golf tournament, a motorcycle run. This year we're excited. We have a new online registration system that will be live pretty soon within the next couple of days. So you can go online, you can fill out all the activities that you want to do. And then also new this year, we'll actually have an app for the week of the event. So you can check on your phone what you signed up for, where it is, all the information that you need, what time you need to be ready for. So that's all new technology, all really new, as well as if you like and prefer the paper invites, those will be shipped out this week.
I think you're going to have a lot of people showing up in tie-dye in November.
Yeah, breakout. They're dusting off all their old tie-dye, exactly.
You may see me there. You never know. Yellow, orange, red, all that fire colors. Well, Zach, is there anything else you'd like to mention?
No, that's it. Thank you for having me.
No problem. And you're getting a lot of love in the comments on Facebook. We already had Adriana Picasso saying she loves GDA. We have Dave Lee Hives saying District 141 giving our solidarity to our GDA brothers and sisters. You do great work. Who could resist those adorable puppies knowing that they will grow up to help so many people? Well, join the conversation by letting us know what you think about our favorite charity, Guide Dogs of America. Many of our districts and locals fundraise year-round for GDA, and we'd like to thank everyone for that support. Well, if you're a member of the IAM, one of the benefits of your union membership is the ability to take classes at the Wimpesinger Education and Technology Center in Maryland. And here are some deadlines to keep in mind. It's time to register for Young Worker Strategy Program. July 26th. Registration is due. The Retiree Strategy Program is July 29th. And the deadline is August 2nd for Community Services Program. You can find more information on the website, wimpasinger.iamaw.org. We have upcoming state council meetings. Here's the list. July 25th to the 27th, the Texas AFL-CIO 60th Convention takes place in San Antonio. August 5th to the 6th, New Jersey State Council meets in Atlantic City. And September 27th and 28th, the Maritime Council of Machinists Biennial Conference takes place in Moncton, New Brunswick. And as far as our conferences and conventions go, Activate Live will be on location for the APRI National Education Conference in Minnesota, August 7th to the 11th. That takes place in Bloomington. The website is apri.org. Joe and I will be there, Joe Heckman. We also have the Apollo Convention taking place in Nevada. The theme is Rights Under Attack, Rising Up, Fighting Back. You can get more information at apollonet.org. And the LACLA Convention will be in Philadelphia. The IAM usually has a large delegation attending. We will try to bring you a live interview from there as a preview. That takes place August 15th to the 17th. So we have a lot to look forward to. Support your union siblings. Share this video to your local or district page. And thanks to all of you who already do. Keep fighting for workers' rights. If we don't, who will? See you next week.